The Failure Trap, Part 2. How to get off to a winning start.
So let's look at, David, George, is this helpful?
It's helpful.
Yeah, see, I just think we're getting beat before we get started on a lot of this stuff, okay? And we just haven't thought enough about it, okay? So let's just talk about how to get off. You know, how do you do it? How do you get off to a winning start? Well, I'm not going to be the world's authority on this, but I'm sure give you some ideas. Here's how you do. First of all, you got a warm-up phase. Most of us have been doing that all of our lives before we find our opportunity. We've been going through life, and you go through frustration. It's just like a fire. You got to prepare the fire before you put the match to it. And an explosion. If you want to get off the explosions, and you've got to have some dynamite to light. If you want to build a fire, you've got to have some firewood assembled. And see, that's what happens in the years of frustration. You go through your life, need develops. You know, many of us have been prepared for our launch. We've been going through, and, we need more, success. We need a better job. We need more money. It's just not working out for us the way we want. We've tried other things. You try other things. They don't work out. So that makes you more frustrated and angry. You're going nowhere, and your situation, which was bad, it continues to get worse. So now, the intensity is building. And what's creating all of this thing, as you go through this, it helps if you have a brother, if you have some close friends, or maybe a brother, a brother-in-law, or father-in-law, mother-in-law, who, family, friends who do you the courtesy of dumping on you. You'll never amount to anything. Why did so-and-so marry you? And so now you get the emotional rejection on top of everything else. Your depression, you start to get depressed. You don't know which way you're going to go. You're confused. All of this thing is great, because what it creates is a burning desire to do something big. And so until you get that, you're running out of money up here. You got no money. You got no options. But you keep looking. And eventually you find what you're looking for. And now it comes time to start doing something that's going to get you out of this hole you got yourself into. The deal is, how can you harness this burning desire that's been created over this thing? You don't do it by just going through the motions and I'm going to show up at class and I'm going to start learning and trying to get this ingrained. No, you got to go do something. You got to do something fast. And so how are you going to get yourself to do that? You got to get off the ground. In other words, if you're building a fire, you got to get a spark. It's like a baby. When the babies come into the world, you got 9 months invested in that life, that moment. Here's the moment. A lot of frustration, a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of disruption. And now we need that baby to come. We need that baby to be healthy. We need that baby to get on to the next stage. Get this pregnancy behind us. And now the baby is born. And glory, hallelujah, it's healthy. Unbelievable. But they don't stop. That baby's life has got to start. You got to get in there and you got to get it to get some air in its lungs. And so if it doesn't breathe on its own, you're going to tap it. If that doesn't work, you tap a little harder. And if that doesn't work, somebody, the doctor or one of the nurses, pretty quick, within a couple of seconds, is going to slap that thing on the butt and get it screaming, because that screaming is going to cause it to get air in the lungs and it's going to live. And then they go through all the other procedures of wiping the eyes and cleaning it up and doing all the things they have to do to get it off to a fast start to a real life. Because that's the critical moment. You got to get them going. And that's what you got to do when you get someone started. Right from the beginning, you got to race out of the chute. You got to do something. But you won't do that if you don't understand where you are. There's certain things, but that burning desire, it's good. That kind of creates the that the groundswell to light that fire and to get that going. So first of all, you got to take stock. You got to have a quiet moment with yourself. You got to say, do I really want to do this thing? You got to write it down. You got to ask yourself, am I serious? Am I dead serious? Am I willing to put myself through this thing? Do I really need it? What price will I pay? Am I willing to pay the price to do it? Because if you can't get yourself sold and committed, you're not going to be able to get anybody else to do it. Then you've got to, it's just like anything. You've got to know, why. Why? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What do I have to have happen? What do I need out of this thing? And then how quick? When? See, this gets you mentally organized for yourself. If you don't know why you're doing it, well, if you have other options, you haven't sorted through, you're never going to commit wholesale to this. If you don't know exactly what, so you got to be specific on these things. You got to be specific to be dynamic. Most people that are starting trainees, they don't walk them through and give them a chance to get mentally organized because they've got to run their life. You can't run their life for them because they've got to you got to activate. See, this activates their want to. Because people are only going to do what they want to do. And until you get this activated, they're not going to go anywhere. And then you've got to do, from the what, is you've got to have a real good reason. You've got to have a big goal, and then you've got to have your first target. You've got to have a big goal that you have in your mind that one day this is going to pay off for me. If I've got a big goal, that's going to be enough to sustain me during the times where I got doubts and I have disappointments and all of the things you go through on a daily basis. If you got the big goal in your mind, as they say, eye on the prize, you're going to have that long-range view and not get washed out the first time, you get you stub your toe. And then you've got to have your first target. Your first target is everything. If you don't hit your first target, see, it's got to be something simple. It's got to be doable. It's got to be something that it's significant, but it's something you can do. And it's got to be something you can get done quickly, because that's how you're really going, that's the spark. That's how you're going to launch your career. It's just like this. If a bird, when you're starting a new adventure, this is not a class or workshop. You're not going to be sitting around daydreaming, listening, like attending. This is competition. So how do you start this thing? You got to start it with a bang. Boom. It's like a football team. You see these football players, they're psyching themselves up before they go out. You got to get your motions going. You got to jump up and down. You got to slap yourself in the face. I got to go. I got to go. I got to go. You got to clear your schedule. You got to be ready to go for it. This is like launch. You got to see yourself as launching out on a life-changing adventure. And there's no. It's drastic. It's big. It's you're lighting a fuse. You're lighting your own fuse. You can't look at other people like your fuse. You got to do it because you want to do it. Otherwise, you'll feel like you'll be resentful and fighting people because you feel like they're trying to make you do it. It's like a bird. When a bird wants to, it comes time for a bird to fly. Let's go over here. You have the little bird sitting up there in the nest. They see the mothers fly out and the dads fly out. They're sitting up there. They can't go anywhere. And they find, their eyes work, and they flap their wings a little bit, and they don't, in the beginning, they don't even think about flying. But then they get more strength, and they get a little bigger and bigger. Finally, they get resentful. They want to fly. But then when they jump out of that thing, you jump out of that nest, you better flap those wings. You better flap, or you're going to hit the ground, because it's flap or die. That's the way it is when you go here. You go when you're ready. You don't go when other people say you're ready, because this is you going on your own. And so this is going for it. This is your race to financial independence. And so you're starting your own race. And you want to set yourself up for success. See, you want to make sure the ingredients are right. You don't want to try and start a fire and you don't have any logs, or the logs you have are too big. You're never going to get them on start. You know, you don't have any kindling. You don't have any small. You don't have, or they're wet. They're sopping wet. There's not enough. You can't rub sticks together long enough to get enough heat to generate. You know, you're doomed before you get started there. You're just going to make yourself sweaty and, you know, rub the skin off your hands. See, you start your race. You want to make sure you know what you're going for. You're setting yourself up. You've got your first, you know, you know why. You know what. You know when. It's a big goal. It's your goal. These are your things. All of these are yours. And then you get your first target. You get clear on that. You know, you cannot hit a bullseye that you don't know where the target is. And then when it comes time to go, you go for it with everything you've got, because one thing you can be sure of, you will not be good enough to do it if you give it half effort. But if you give it full effort, you might be able to do it great. So that's the way you start something new. That's the way you start a race to financial independence. That's the way you give yourself the best chance to win. All right, guys, those are some ideas on getting people off to a fast start. And I think most managers just assume people do this on their own and don't realize by neglecting to get them mentally ready to launch, before they launch, most people they doom to dying, before they even get going. Do you think that might be part of it, David?
That's a very big part of it.
And what goes through your mind, George, when you're hearing this stuff?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Larry, and you used great analogies. You know, if you don't get a plane off the ground quick, it's going to crash. If you don't launch somebody's career, there's no such thing as almost launching a rocket. There's no such thing as almost launching someone's career here. It either happens or it doesn't happen. I don't see too many people come back for a do-over here. Either it gets done right the first time or it doesn't get done at all.
You know, what you find is we get in here and you see people, they'll, here's a new person. You know, they're starting their new career and they're going to launch out there. You know, they're like the airplane on the runway, you know, right here. You know, they're on here and, you know, we want to take off and get up, and then they're going to go and they're going to be flying and they're going to be dealing with other things, and then they're going to have to land and a lot of things they have to know. So what happens is, so most of the time, the managers just assume they're going to get this, and so they start training on this and training on this and training on this stuff. But by the time, these people never get that far. They don't know. They're putting down the thing half-hearted, and before you know it, they've crashed into these buildings at the end of the runway, and the manager's saying, well, what the heck? You know, what happened? Well, you didn't tell them. You got to give it everything you've got starting here. You can't get halfway down the runway and give it everything you got. You're not going to have enough momentum. You're going to run out of time. You're going to get depressed. You know, emotionally, you're not going to have the resiliency there. You got to give it what you've got here to give yourself a margin for error so that you don't have to be perfect and you can get that thing and pretty much maximize your chance to be successful in this thing. So, anyway, I hope that helps, and that's my thoughts on getting off to a fast start.